Hi, everyone. I'm with Mrs. Brushneck. Mrs. Brushneck is a speech language pathologist. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So how long have you been working in your field, and how many students percentage-wise have had this condition?
I have worked as a speech language pathologist for over 30 years. However, I've only been in the school system for about, I think this is my 13th year. So I didn't work with kids. I worked with adults prior to the school system. So I've only been working, like I said, this is about my 13th year. And the percentage of kids on my caseload is less than 5%. Percentage of kids who have autism.
Okay.
I usually have at least one student on my caseload, and at times two, but usually it's about less than 5% of the kids that I see.
Okay. And in general, how has your experience been with these children?
It's been very positive. Each child is unique with different needs. So getting to know each child, it's been a positive experience overall.
That's awesome. So what are a few strategies that you have used that best help students with autism succeed in the classroom?
Well, one of the things that's been really positive is kids benefit from having a visual schedule. So pictures, and usually they're mounted on a board, so there's some flexibility. So with Velcro, their morning schedule and their afternoon schedule. So that might even include, their specials that they go to. It's really helpful for kids to know what to expect. So having that, and another strategy is front loading. So if something does change, we know that some kids have a hard time with being flexible, and they like to know the routine. So front loading them and letting them know if the schedule is going to change, or we had to switch music with art this day. letting them know ahead of time is helpful. So some of that front loading. We often use if-then statements kind of to help kids get their work done, and they know that if you do, XYZ, then we can, go take a break or take a walk or that kind of thing. So those kinds of statements are helpful too.
Yeah, those things are definitely very helpful, especially for me. I know, I don't know if okay.
I'll just turn this down because my phone's ringing. I don't even know who that is. Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah. So for me, I don't know if you set this up or not, but my teachers use that schedule too, like that visual schedule. And yeah, I remember I hated it when the schedule ended up changing for me, So yeah, those are a couple of very helpful strategies, I think. So what is the process when a student with this condition has bad behavior, and what do you do in order to prevent that from the future, or in the future?
Yeah, pretty much when I'm not the only, I'm not the case manager usually on kids that are on the spectrum. Usually a kid on the spectrum also on the autism spectrum usually has resource room and often has social work services too. So we usually do what's called an FBA, a functional behavioral analysis. And I believe it's the social worker that does that. I'm not usually involved in that part. But they do that. And then we put together a part of the behavioral intervention. I help write the behavioral intervention plan. So there's a set plan that works on for each student if there is some kind of negative behavior that we're trying to address. And we work on, we try to figure out what the antecedent is, what's they fill out ABC logs. Are you familiar with those?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, trying to figure that out and figure out what to do. And then we put a behavioral plan into place to try to prevent whatever it is we're trying to, whatever behavior it is we're trying to work on with the student.
Right.
That's it's usually like a team approach. I'm not usually I'm not. I don't even take the lead on that.
Exactly. Right. Okay.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. I was a camp counselor for one of my summer jobs. So like we had to write out those plans occasionally. But the problem was they weren't for like a whole year. They were only for a week.
oh, okay, yeah.
They had to be like really simplified.
Right, because you don't have the beauty of that getting to know and looking at all the data and yeah.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are some strategies that you teach students to help them succeed beyond the classroom and in the real world?
Well, one of the things that that is a really, I don't know if you've ever heard of the social thinking curriculum. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not. No.
It's a speech language pathologist who started this curriculum, and it goes beyond social skills, because social skills is more like, you say please and thank you and initiate a conversation. You make sure it's really about perspective taking. Mm-hmm. So really teaching kids, it gets deeper into teaching kids to think cognitively, to think about other people and their motives and their, and how you meaning that as a student, how a student's behavior influences others and how others influence their behavior. So getting to think about the whole group and the group plan. And so it's a curriculum that starts at like as early as age 4, I believe, because I started using it with a kid this year. I've kind of done more research and this summer reading about it and everything. And I really like the program, but it's really about perspective taking and teaching kids flexibility, cognitive flexibility.
Right.
And there's also some kids that, kids get freaked out. One of the other parts is like the size of the problem, teaching like, is this a little problem, a big problem,
Exactly, right.
And the whole flexible thinking, they have characters, super flex, and but really it's about perspective taking. So that can go well beyond the classroom, because I think the curriculum could even be used with adults. I mean, it gets, there's programs for teenagers so it starts out with young, teaching kids, and then it goes throughout adults. So
right.
I say that's a really good, a very good program.
So, yeah, I agree completely. Perspectives thinking is like really necessary, especially for like really the emotional and mental health for people with this condition, because like this already is a very stressful condition, and like as much stress as that you can remove as possible, like it's very crucial for a happy life,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you have any words of wisdom for parents of children with autism who feel like they're unable to control their child's actions?
Well, I mean, I don't have, not having a child with autism myself. I think though support from other parents probably would be helpful, like parents to seek out some kind of support group would be helpful. Just so they know that they're not, there's other people in the same boat, metaphorically speaking. That would be my biggest, that parents need to take care of their health, their own mental health too, not just, not just your child, that they need to, because you can't really be a good caregiver for your kid if you're not taking care of yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly. Yeah, definitely. So what do you understand about children with autism that you didn't understand before you entered this field?
Lots.
All right.
No. I would say, so you talk about, kids being on the spectrum. Each kid is unique. I mean, right. Each kid, what works for one kid or with one kid is not necessarily going to be, it's not one size. I mean, that's with every kid, but each kid is just unique, and there's just so many variables, and they come from different backgrounds, and kids on the spectrum, you've got kids that are functioning, very low level functioning to high level functioning. Each kid definitely is unique, and so you need to kind of tailor your therapy and your service, for each particular individual. I personally don't see kids that are too low. We have at Plymouth Canton, there's kids that are in a more of a self-contained classroom. If they're nonverbal or functioning and have many more behavioral problems, those kids are usually there's a couple different schools where those kids go. They're in Plymouth Canton, but they're at, I want to say Tonda. I can't remember. There's a couple schools. So we have a speech language pathologist that actually travels to each of those elementaries and sees those kids that are in the self-contained categorical rooms, I think is what they call them.
Okay.
For ASD. So
final question. This is a bit of a complicated one. It's kind of like your own perspective. But what message do you think autistic children are trying to tell the world, basically? I know that's kind of a weird question, but
I think that just to accept me, if I was quoting, accept me as who I am.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So.
Alrighty. Well, thank you for joining me.
You are welcome. You are welcome. Yeah.